I think a healthy culture is where you can be human, where you can be supported, where you can grow, where you can flourish, where you can reach out for help, when you can make a mistake and learn from it. The manager needs to play the game. HR is there to support, HR is there to guide, HR is there to equip and empower both the manager and the employee. So it's easy to sometimes throw in the towel and say HR is at fault or HR needs to come and solve it. That's not how you solve or build culture. And we need to play the game within the rules to achieve objectives. And the objectives is not always to win. I mean, if you concentrate on winning, you're going to lose the game.
Hi guys, welcome to Couch Talk with LHS, where we have meaningful conversations about HR related topics. We're talking about leadership, culture, business, entrepreneurship, and the ever evolving workplace. I am your host, Naombele, aka Boss Lady, and today I'm not by myself. I am joined by Frank de Beer. How are you, sir?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. So Frank, today we're touching on a very, I think it's not sensitive, but it's a topic that needs to be had. We're talking culture, organizational culture to be specific. Before we start, I just want to share with you something that I've read. So I saw somewhere around 2023, I think it was published by Deloitte. So 83% of South African leaders or executives say organizational culture is one of the top 3 drivers of performance within the organization, right? However, 28% of those leaders said their current culture was fit for purpose within the next 2 to 3 years. So what would you say about that?
It's alarming. It is shocking. We still treat it as a soft issue. After looking at those statistics where we say that culture is actually performance and it's a soft issue. I mean, it's a hard business reality. Culture is not easy. Culture is the biggest thing that attracts or make employees leave, high performers. Alarming stats. Yeah,
but now when we talk about it, if we just put it in practice, maybe in simple words for people to understand, what is organizational culture and what role does it play? I mean, you've touched on it based on the stats that we've seen, but what is it and what role does it play in organizations?
Culture is not what organizations say. It is what organizations' behaviors, their leaders, their systems consistently produce. So in a very layman's terms definition of culture, in my way at least, it is how we work together. It is what we tolerate. It is the behaviors that we demonstrate. It's the conversations we're having, the conversations we're not having. It's the way we experience work.
Okay, so you're touching on very important things. It's how we work together, right?
Yes.
That means that there are stakeholders into building a culture. So let's talk about from top up. So leadership, what role do they have in creating this culture?
Critical. I think just starting up from do we have a culture or not? If we've deliberately designed or architectured a culture, or if we haven't, we have a culture. It can be a nice culture, it can be a positive culture, it could be a performing culture, it could be a bad culture, but we have a culture. So culture is something that needs to be deliberately architected and driven. So for your question regarding leadership, they are key in it. The behaviors that they demonstrate, the role models that they are, how we deal with when there's mistakes, what we reward and what we recognize, where we focus and pay our attention, and that's critical as the team will have a direct experience from there. So leaders are critical in driving this whole culture that we agree upon. But if they don't, they also drive a culture. So either or, leaders are key in that space.
In the space. So regardless, whether it is intentional or not, whatever you do, the practice that you guys have within the organization is culture.
That's it.
Oh, okay. So now let's talk about, because every single time we talk about culture, we're talking leadership. We're talking about what do managers need to do, what can leaders do in the culture, but we forget what's very integral. I mean, the business is comprised of leadership as well as employees, right?
Yes.
And I've seen, just funny enough, on social media, everybody's now, there is this hype about, people talking about toxic workplaces. But I mean, who is in the business right? It's comprised of employees.
That's it.
So what role do the employees then have in shaping the culture of the organization?
Sure, such an important question, because I think if you look at the typical approach is leadership needs to sort it out, or HR needs to sort culture out.
All the time. We are everything. We need to sort out everything in organizations.
For sure.
Yeah.
But your question, who is the organization? Each one of us in this organization contributes and is part of it. So we have a role to play in culture. And I'm a big fan of thinking that self-accountability is critical. And that means I need to have safety. I need to have vulnerability, and I need to have purpose. If I experience that, and I know curiosity and care, I'm curious about how I impact you, I'm curious about what your objectives, what your challenges, what your needs, and then I do my job in such a way that I consider you. That's my part in contributing to it. I mean, if you look at organizations with nice cultures, they have nice cultures, and we know about it because they are performing. And ultimately, that's where the employees sit. If I take that self-accountability and I really become curious and I care, you have magic.
No, absolutely, I agree with you. I mean, just taking back, maybe just as an FYI, I'm going to be revealing our age at this point. I don't like it, but it's going to be done. You and I met about 13 to 15 years ago. We worked for a company called, it's now called Sage, but it was previously called Softline VIP.
That's great.
Right? So I'm just looking back at that, and we realized that the culture that they have, shout out to Anton van Heerden, because he did amazing with us. I mean, we were talking about it previous, prior to this particular session. We had a culture of hard work, accountability, and I mean empathy, and taking care of staff members. I mean, we were consultants, we were hardly at the office. So on Fridays we had a culture of just meet up, just have Friday drinks. It wasn't about the drinks per se, but it was just, connecting with your stakeholders. We talk to sales over emails, but we never know each other. But in those things, he created that particular culture. So would you say, because it worked for us then at Sage, would that be replicated? Is it something that other businesses can do, which can work for the environment?
I love the time there, and like you said, there was something special about the culture that was at VIP back then. I think it started with Anton by as a leader driving that whole initiative, but it took a team to deliberately and intentionally architect a culture. And when I talk about culture, it's not just the superficial fun stuff like the beer and the ping pong and the Nerf guns. That's fun, of course it is. But you need to have fun at a deeper level, and that doesn't always mean that it's nice. It is how we solve problems, how we work together, like you mentioned, between sales and payroll and HR, and how we solve those problems for a client and we get the results. It's at a deeper level, and I think they managed that. And Anton was a role model in most of those things. I don't know if you still recall, when you start in the organization, the CEO, Anton, had a coffee session or a breakfast session, and he recalled each and every employee's name.
By name.
And that's role modeling where you see care. It's curiosity and care. I remember that conversation was absolutely not about where's this company going or what's your KPIs or how you're going to be rewarded. It was even genuinely caring on a human level. Who are you? Where do you come from? And that already made such a massive difference. So that culture worked for VIP. And there's a recipe that they deliberately designed, but you can't copy and paste that in every company and expect the same. A culture is quite unique to the organization, and every CEO, every leader brings their flair to it, and that creates that magic that you call culture in your organization. So I think there's fundamental stuff that he did. I mean, he created an environment where there was safety. When I talk about safety is a place where I can ask for help, a place where I can say I've stuffed up, a place where I can say I don't know what to do. He created that. There was also vulnerability. I remember him quite a few times saying that I've stuffed up completely, or we went the wrong direction. And that made the space okay for me to do the same.
Exactly.
But the big thing is there was purpose. There was purpose in the sense of he could highlight to you why we are there. And it's not to implement the payroll system or achieve a number. It's what to make a positive impact in that company or client's space. I recall that VIP, that stage was so renowned for customer service, going beyond the extra mile to solve it. And that's not because people were asked to do it. it was because of these things that created that magic where people wanted to go the extra mile.
Absolutely. And I think you're touching on a very important tool where you said there was a team behind all of this, because you would also just remember, and something that I'm also implementing with my team as well, just to have like your one-on-one sessions, right, over coffee. We would talk about anything and everything. It's not about performance only. I think that created a safe environment just for you and your manager to actually touch base. Let's talk about it. What am I struggling with? And we opened up because there was room to make mistakes and grow from those particular mistakes. So it wasn't only the superficial, but it was also about performance, because we were also accountable. We were talking about it in terms of saying, we ran the consulting in your clients like your own business.
Yes.
And I think that's what shaped us for now.
Simon Sinek, I listened to a podcast of him just a few days ago. He had two scenarios that he shared on it. The one is he stayed in a hotel, and it was the best hotel, not because of the brilliant mattresses that they had. Any hotel can purchase exceptional mattresses. It's because of the service that he experienced there, the people, the warmth, all of that. And he spoke to the one of the people that worked there. I can't recall the name. Say, for example, his name was Noah. Yeah. And he said, Noah, why do you like working here? And he says he absolutely loves it. And he said, why? He said, he's management, not his manager, management will come by and say, how are you? How can I help you today? What do you need to do your job today? And they would greet, but not just the greet because it says just in the policy. Yeah. You can feel the warmth and the sincerity of it. Yeah. So he could be himself. He's not in that fight and flight mode anytime. He can be innovative. He can be creative. Now, Noah said that he actually got two jobs. He works at another hotel, and the experience is completely different. In there, managers want to find a way of where you are deliberately making a mistake because they want things to be perfect. So there he wants to make sure that he only arrives above the water when it's necessary. And it's the same person, but it's not the same manager. And it's not the same culture that they experience. Now, fascinating, because we talk about performance and culture as performance. Yes. He also recalled another case study where he spoke at two IT organizations, one of the most renowned organizations in the world, and he had a conversation at one of their conferences. And he said that while he was observing, 70% of the executive management's focus and attention was on what the competitor was doing. He had the same conference at the competitor. And 100% of the executive leadership was about making sure that they equip teachers and students with the right skills, materials, and technology to make an impact. Yeah. Completely different focus. Absolutely. It's about performance.
Yeah, it eventually is about performance.
Yes.
And how the employees obviously feel within the organization. Yes, absolutely. But then just on the flip side, then why do you think organizations struggle to build a culture that's fit for purpose, if I should put it like that? Like you said, it can't be replicated. What we do at company A can't necessarily work at company B. But why would then managers struggle or leaders struggle to build?
Tough question. I think there's multiple reasons. But if I can say the two that I commonly found is the first one, and it goes to Amy Edmondson, that's for me one of the gurus in psychological safety and trust. If there's no safety and trust, people's not going to speak up. Now, so many times you see after a culture assessment, the results looks positive. There's no issues that arise. That's when you need to become worried. Yeah. If you know about issues, if people not just complain by the sake of complaining, but raising concerns and problems, then you're on the right spot. So one, leaders' psychological safety and trust is not there. The second thing that I found was, if you go a little bit deeper, how we see people. Now, Arbinger coined they're focusing on mindset. Yeah. And they've coined two sides to mindset. You have an outward mindset or inward mindset. Inward mindset, I see people as objects. I treat them as vehicles. It's a self-focused approach. I treat them as barriers or obstacles or irrelevance. Yeah. It's all about me, my objectives, my challenges, my needs. That's one way of looking at it. The other way is an outward mindset, where curiosity and care. I really care about what your objective, challenges, and needs. And then with the curiosity, I care about them. So when I do my job, I consider it. And I keep myself accountable. And we have win-win scenarios. Where we see our people directly impacts culture. And that's why it fails, or where you see performance fails, is just in terms of mindset, in terms of psychological safety and trust, which I think is two core issues. Yeah. It's not about strategy. It is about the people. that makes strategy absolute and ultimately culture.
Culture. You said one important thing. I mean, we just recently did a survey, right? An employee survey, just assessing culture within one organization. So at that time, everything was just everywhere. There were complaints, people, complaining about anything and everything, leadership and whatnot. At that time, people would have said, it's not the right time to do this survey because you're going to get, people bashing leadership and all of those things. But the survey results came back because we were hoping for at least 30% of people to participate, which is a low number.
Yes.
Funny enough, we got 76% of participants, which is actually good because, like you said, I am a firm believer if people are still giving you feedback, they're still with you.
Yes.
They want to work with you.
Agreed.
So until people just shut down.
Yes.
So it is quite important.
Well, that whole culture of silence.
It's bad.
We want to avoid conflict, so we rather suffer in silence alone.
Absolutely.
And that creates such a terrible, not just in terms of the toxicity that's created, but from a performance perspective, from an engagement perspective, and the consequences. You lose your high-performing talent immediately. People don't trust or respect one another. It just spirals.
No, definitely. Can I also just take it back to HR? I'm going to speak for my HR people in this particular case, right? Because, like you said, these conversations are difficult at times, right? And managers try and steer away from having these particular conversations, and they just, everything pushed back to HR.
Yes.
But what does that create within organizations where managers don't want to be accountable for having these difficult conversations? Let's push back. HR must handle these things. That's why you are here.
You mentioned that a culture is created by a team, and I think everybody's got a space in it. It's not a good guy, bad guy type of approach. It is a collective effort to a purpose. And once we start shifting minds in terms of that we are working together for an ultimate goal, those things become lesser so. If it's not there, then who's responsible for what? And I think just thinking of a metaphor, if you think of the game of football, and if you think of the pitch with the white lines all around it, you've got rules, you've got a referee, that's HR's role. We put the policies, the procedures, the rules of engagement, what this is about. But then you have the referee that sometimes need to give a yellow card and a red card. And you also have the coaches, which is the managers. And then you've got the players, which is the employees. And we need to play the game within the rules to achieve objectives. And the objectives is not always to win. I mean, if you concentrate on winning, you're going to lose the game. Exactly. Culture is the same. In businesses, business has been there before the current businesses that is there. And business will be there after these businesses are no longer there. So when we say we want to have a winning culture, what are we saying? It's not a game we can win. So we need to create that organic, human, high-performance element in it. And that's not concentrating on the numbers. It's concentrating on the humanness so that people can be there and just organically perform naturally. So from your question with regards to the roles, the manager needs to play the game. HR is there to support. HR is there to guide. HR is there to equip and empower both the manager and the employee. So it's easy to sometimes throw in the towel and say HR is at fault or HR needs to come and solve it. That's not how you solve or build culture.
Build culture within the organization. I agree with you 100%. I think we are a team, and that's why we normally say to the managers that we're here to empower you. Yes. And take it back to the employees that HR is not necessarily here for the managers alone. I mean, as much as if the managers have done wrong, we're not going to tell the managers in front of the employees, but it's our responsibility to equip those managers in terms of how to do things. All right.
Agree. It's not just top down. It's top down and bottom up.
Absolutely.
So it's
that's
a team
effort. It's a team effort, and that's what culture is all about.
Yes.
So having said that, then Frank, what does a healthy organizational culture look like in practice? Because we already know that we can't replicate one thing from another. It can't be used. But just in practice, what does it look like? What should we have, or what should be seen?
That is a brilliant question. People want to be heard. People want to be seen. People want a platform to ask for help. People want to be human. So you'll have good days and you'll have bad days. People want to a place where they can flourish. So if that does not happen, I think you don't have a healthy culture. I think a healthy culture is where you can be human, where you can be supported, where you can grow, where you can flourish, where you can reach out for help, when you can make a mistake and learn from it. We can be human. And I think that with the current way of work and how work is changing becomes such a rare commodity. I think of just thinking of hybrid work world. Now we're sitting at home. When we were still at the office, we can bump in the corridors of one another or the coffee station, or we can shoot one another with Nerf guns or play ping pong. But now when we are sitting at home, that needs deliberate and specific actions that we need to take to get to those points where we can connect. I think that a weak culture is fragmented through hybrid work. I think your true culture is now experienced through behaviors, not in the being together or proximity aspect. So I think a healthy culture is where we still have opportunity to connect. Healthy culture is where we have leaders that knows how to bring in the people aspect and not just throw AI and technology at it. So I hope I answered through it. There's not a specific, this is the 6 steps of a healthy culture, but I think it's a place where we can be human, and that means it's not perfect.
Okay, all right, that's great. But you also mentioned the hybrid work and remote work.
Yes.
It does affect culture. Because now some companies are still having that remote work. But how does then that influence culture in today's lives?
I think the future of culture is not the perks, not the flexibility, not those things. It's a place where I can be human. So I think that the emphasis is again placed on your leadership, the people that you have in those positions to manage. If you can't help that human connection virtually with flexible working from home, then it becomes a lonely space. Then with loneliness, there's a ripple effect and a knock-on effect that starts to happen. So I think your leadership and the people that you appoint in those positions, to equip them, creating environments, even if it's not at the office, deliberately, intentionally, to connect as people on people things.
Okay, that's great, Frank. So my last question then from you in terms of this particular topic. There are businesses or people that would be watching the podcast, right? And obviously, sometimes it's good as a leader to reflect in terms of what you have, where you are. Because I know I had that not so long ago, where I called you just to say, as much as you think you may be doing things right, let me just call an outsider to just assess and maybe guide me if I'm still in the right direction. So if there are people that are interested in doing that and they don't know where to start, how can they start with improving their culture within the organization?
Sometimes we overcomplicate things. So I think that the starting space is firstly to stop the guessing work and starting to focus on facts. So it means let's measure culture, let's assess culture, and there's a lot of instruments out there. I use an instrument called the cultivator that looks at the whole system, from leaderships, from systems, from safety, from all of the different aspects. Then we take the guesswork out of it. Then we know where's the burning platforms, where are we succeeding, because there's positive deviances as well. So firstly, let's start there. The second thing is let's work on how we see our people. Let's make it a priority to bring the human piece back into it, to equip our leaders with the right skills, with the right tools. Leadership for me is one of those things that you can, just like with management, you can train. It's like being a parent. Most people have the capacity to be a parent, but should not or will not or want or not be a parent. The same with leadership. So let's get the right people that with the right skills to be able to drive this. And then let's architect what is our purpose? Where is this business going? So, and then architect your culture from there. What behaviors do we tolerate? What behaviors do we not? How do we talk about things? What happens when there's some mistakes that's made? What do we reward? We can't say that we reward collaboration, but then we recognize and reward individual contributions. Be deliberate and architect that practice around it. And then this is something that we don't just design and now it's there and then we leave it. It's a continuous measurement. It's a continuous involvement. It's a continuous hand-on approach by leaders, especially the executive team.
Okay, that's great. I think this is very interesting because one of the things that we taking out of this is that it has to be intentional, because whether you have it or not, you've created it.
True.
Whether it was intentional or not, you have created culture within the organization.
Yeah, and this is not a soft issue. This directly influence your performance, your retention, your outcomes. So it's critical. It's not something that's a by the by.
Okay, thank you very much, Frank. So, Frank, we're talking about, culture and where it fits, and I know you're working with different clients in terms of, assisting them in creating the culture or working on the existing culture just to improve their culture. But I know you do much more than just, helping clients with culture. If people want to get in touch with you, can you maybe just share a little bit more about what your business does and how they can get in touch with you?
Sure, thank you. So, I work in a company called Energise Solutions, and I'm an industrial psychologist by trade, but I've got a passion for people. I've got a passion for organizations and performance. So I help solve problems like collaboration, accountability. I help solve problems of performance where we don't have engagement or we don't we're not moving in the direction of where we want to go. I help organizations solving the challenges that we spoke about today from a culture perspective, and normally that's through equipping leaders through it. But I'm also solving problems, and that doesn't necessarily mean that I label them. I brainstorm and I partner, and the idea is long-term success and not just a quick pull and everything is fixed. So to get in touch with me, it's quite easy. You can phone me. My phone number will display
Yes.
on the screen.
Yes.
You can WhatsApp me, you can email me, or you can find me on LinkedIn. And I'm quite active on LinkedIn by sharing stories, sharing experiences, good stuff, the bad stuff, the in-between stuff. And I'm always willing to have a coffee and to brainstorm and to really share. I love building partnerships and relationships through sharing. So please reach out and we'll have a coffee.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Frank, for joining us this today. We really appreciate it. I think it was very insightful. We've learned a thing or two. So obviously, if people would want your assistance, we will be sharing your details on the screen. So I really, really appreciate you coming through today.
Thank you for the opportunity. I love working with you, boss lady.
It's still stuck. Thank you so much. Thank you very much for watching. Today was very insightful. I think what I took from this whole episode is that it's very important to create culture. I mean, intentionally or not, there is culture built in with your organization. So if you want to get in touch with us, you want to talk to us, or you've got a story to share with us, please get in touch with us on marketing@letsalohr.co.za. And don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. And like I always say, you don't have to take everything from the podcast, but at least take one thing with you. Until the next episode, Sanang Handle. Bye.